Warning, the following contains graphic imagery. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello my friends, welcome to the land of the rising manga that is Days Zone. Well, we're continuing right where we left off last time with Higurashi's Abducted by the Demon Arcs Volume 1. Now, if you haven't seen part 1 of my little review for this series, please go watch it as I do appreciate the views. But otherwise, if you haven't seen it, well, actually nothing much has happened so far.
A kid named Keiichi moved out to the boonies with his family. He attends a school where I have to question whether or not they could get a proper education, and attended a weird-ass festival where everyone just throws cotton balls into the river.
Considering that cotton doesn't dissolve all that well in water, I should hope the next day involved cleaning up the river. Oh yeah, and there was also some talk about a possible chain of murders and all that, but I'm sure that won't become a significant plot point, especially in a manga that has a bunch of blood splatter all over its front and back cover. Yeah, let's just get right back into the Higurashi Retrospective.
The day following the festival, Keiichi was called out to meet with a police officer from the neighboring town of Okinomiya. Kurado Oishi is pretty much your stereotypical overweight cop,
沖宮署の大石です。
who in the anime was voiced by a guy who's been playing an overweight cop for the last 2 decades.
Seriously, somebody really needs to end Detective Conan before any other voice actors semi-retire and they have to hire new guys who'd sound nothing like them.
Anyway, to no reader's surprise, somebody died during the previous night's festival. And almost just as unsurprisingly, it was Tomitake.
Called it.
His cause of death was identified as self-mutilation due to clawing at his neck with his own fingernails.
And this is why your mom always told you to trim your nails regularly. Hell, I saw long nails take out the Man of Steel once. That's how dangerous they are.
However, there was evidence that it wasn't just a simple suicide, as his corpse showed signs of a struggle against multiple people, meaning that some group of people managed to give him one of the worst cases of itchy neck ever.
My head's itchy. Every part of me is getting itchy. I'm about to itch all my skin off.
And after all that talk about curses and such he had with him, Keiichi realized this all couldn't just be a mere coincidence and went with Oishi. We enter into the next chapter with Mio. Oh, wait, sorry, that's from the Omake. Yeah, I didn't read this up in the last video, but in between each of these chapters, there are these short little extra comics that are not canonical in any way. They're just short gag segments that don't really add anything, but are ultimately harmless. Still, I wonder why a tomboy like Mion is wearing such a girly dress. I'm sure it's nothing significant. Back on track, along with Tomitake, we learned that Takano had also disappeared during the festival. From there, Keiichi and Oishi then began discussing the chain of deaths that occurred during each of the festivals. Assuming that they were all homicide, Keiichi wanted to know why Tomitake, who had never done anything disrespectful towards the village, would be killed. Oishi theorized it was simply because he was an outsider and that the motives for killing were becoming progressively more minor as the years have gone by, citing how the 3rd and 4th killings were of people who weren't directly opposing the village. Oishi then goes on to explain how Mion's family were the ones leading the demonstrations against the dam project, with Mion herself being detained more than once for misdemeanors.
For what? Arresting me for what? I'm not allowed to stand up for myself?
And just like Tomitake, Oishi tells Keiichi not to let this bother him and that he should just go about his life normally.
Okay, seriously, what is the deal with the adults in this manga? You're telling this shocking information to an impressionable teenage boy. You can't just wave it off like a parent telling their kid that Gabby's mom is still alive. She is still alive, right? I just want to make sure.
The next day in school, while dozing off a little, Keiichi overhears Rena and Mion talking about Tomitake's death, and then about someone else being demoned away, more than likely referring to Takano.
Yeah, in case you're wondering, my spell checker did go off when I typed in demon, as that's not a real word. In the original Japanese, they use the term onikakushi, which is also an unusual term in Japanese, as usually it's kamikakushi, which can be translated out to spirited away, like a certain Studio Ghibli film.
But here, they purposely switched out kami, the term for spirits or gods in Shinto, with oni, which are a kind of ogre-type demon in Japanese mythology. We'll get more of an explanation from the manga in just a bit, but this of course was setting off some serious alarms in Keiichi's head. How did they learn about Tomitake's death and Takano's disappearance, even though Oishi said that the police were trying to keep it under wraps? What's all this stuff about being demoned away? Again, not a real word. Wanting some answers, Keiichi woke up in the most subtle way he could.
Don't shoot, she said she was single!
And he ends up falling into yet another one of Sayako's traps, and she celebrates by pretending like she's a cat. Seriously, why does she have both of her fists clenched like that? Anyway, because of Sayako's antics, the group ended up with a little extra cleanup duty. However, everyone except Keiichi and Rena end up bailing for various reasons. Geez, some friends. While putting things away, Keiichi stumbles upon an old score sheet with the name of a boy he had never heard of, Satoshi.
Yeah, apparently he went on a journey to become a Pokemon master, and for whatever reason he insists on using a level 100 Pikachu in his team all the time. And despite signs that it's been a few decades now, he hasn't aged a day, and oh, wait, sorry, wrong anime.
No, he was a boy who transferred out of the school around the time Rena transferred in. However, because of Rena's reaction to his question, it gave Keiichi the impression that, yet again, he was being kept out of the loop. His reaction to it was, of course, giving his sexy, brooding look.
That's just what people like us do. Suffer quietly, shouldering the knowledge no one else can bear.
Seriously, the art in this book can be really darn good, with the exception of a few of these supposedly serious faces. I just hope in the next few pages they make up for it with some really well-drawn faces, darn it.
On their way home, Keiichi asked Rena what it was like for her to move into Hinamizawa since she had moved there just a year prior to him. She tells him it was difficult at first, but all of the girls helped her get settled in and made her feel at home. Frustrated at the thought that he had been left out of this group because of all of their little secrets, Keiichi tries to forcefully pry info out of Rena by yelling at her. Okay, Keiichi, you're kind of being a total ass towards the sweet, innocent little lady with creepy as all hell eyes!
ケイチ君こそレナたちに嘘や隠し事をしてないかな
Am I staring into the eyes of Satan? What is this?
So, while staring at him as though she's possessed by the One Ring of Power, Rena asks Keiichi if there was anything he was hiding from her and the rest of the girls. Keiichi tries to lie his way out by saying he doesn't know anything, and while Rena calls him a liar at first, she does eventually seem to let up and believes him. Hell, okay, as long as she's smiling and not giving that evil demon glare anymore, then we're all good.
Say, why does this page feel different than the others? Oh, I know why. They usually print colored pages on different paper than the usual black and white pages. Well, I'm sure for these next few pages, they just want to emphasize Rena's beautiful little smile. It's just gonna be nice, warming, and friendly. And now I need to go change my pants. I'll be right back.
Got a pest problem?
Cicada chirps as I'm killing my boredom.
Wanna silence those annoying little chirps? Doesn't seem like your friends are gonna chop you into tiny little pieces with impractically large machetes. Well then, you should probably call the authorities first, and then buy some cicada away. Yoni spray guaranteed to silence those bastards the first time, every time. No more will you have to worry about them subtly raising the tension in a scene. Now you can actually have a normal conversation with your female friend who may or may not be a total psychopath. Or now while supplies last. So yeah, the book managed to deliver on those well-drawn faces I asked for. And because of them, I think I'll have to call my therapist after I'm done recording this. And Keiichi shares my sentiments as he falls down to his knees and starts thinking that maybe his friend might be possessed by the devil.
Gee, whatever gave you that idea?
Anyway, that night, Keiichi got a call from Oishi. He helped explain what his friends meant by the whole demon away thing. As it turns out, it means exactly what it sounds like, with people being abducted by demons.
Roll credits.
And just to make sure that they're talking about Oni specifically, Keiichi asked Oishi if he meant the guys with the tiger undies who carry around metal rods and... wait, metal rods?
Keiichi, that's a club. Rods are not that bumpy. Jeez, kids these days need to play more RPGs.
Anyway, Oishi tells Keiichi there was a time when Hinamizawa was referred to as the village where demons live. I'm guessing they tried to change their image because they kept on getting visited by tour buses full of pretentious social outcasts.
Side note, I wouldn't mind seeing these guys get eaten by Oni.
Anyway, according to Oishi, along with all of the deaths that occurred during the festival, there were also cases of people disappearing, or as the villagers would put it, being demoned away. One of the suspected murderers of the first incident was never detained. The body of the wife who fell along with her husband into the river was never recovered. Same with the wife of the priest who supposedly committed suicide on the third year. And now for the current year, Takano had disappeared. Oh, and as for the fourth year, it was a boy who was living at the fourth victim's home, and his name was Satoshi, the kid who was the sole male member of Mion's club, and the guy who Keiichi replaced.
Coincidence? I think not!
Just as he learns this, Keiichi is visited by his dad, who's sporting an awesome goatee. Seriously, I know he had no face in the original sound novels, but why couldn't the anime give him a design like this instead of just making him another faceless extra? Oh, and in case you're wondering what's the deal with the beret, it's because he's a mangaka, and apparently they all like to pretend like they're Osamu Tezuka or something.
Yeah, right, dude. When you start writing medical dramas about men being turned into giant dogs, then we'll talk. Shut up, this is a good book.
Anyway, for some reason, he brought up a tray with 2 teacups and a plate of cookies with him. Apparently, he brought it up so that Keiichi could share it with Rena, who had supposedly gone up to see him in his room. But obviously, Keiichi had never even seen Rena that night, which would mean that she had likely been listening in on his conversation with Oishi while he had his back turned to the door.
If you understand me, look very, very scared. A bit more scared than that.
So yeah, Keiichi was starting to freak out. His friends were hiding stuff from him while also possibly stalking him. People were dying and disappearing left and right. It all seemed like one massive conspiracy that our young protagonist had found himself trapped in the middle of. This first volume closes with our protagonist fearing the worst.
Well, this book certainly did a nice 180 in its third act. Still, for those unfamiliar with the series, I'd say it's still a pretty good introduction.
To me, Higurashi's strongest storytelling trait is how it builds up suspense. All too often in modern horror movies and shows, they never actually give us a chance to get invested in the characters or the setting, as they just want to get right into the weird and supposedly scary stuff. Here, they ease us into the frights by starting it off as mostly a slice of life story, and then introducing subtle darker elements throughout that helps to build up to the more shocking moments. At first they might not seem like much, but as they begin to build up, you start to feel uncomfortable and you don't even know why, just as Keiichi was by the end of this book. There may be a lot of tonal shifts in this story, but they're given just the right amount to build up that they don't feel out of place. Card 2-page spreads aside.
I'm scared, I'm moving on!
Speaking of Keiichi, he and Ren are definitely the stars of this first volume. Keiichi throughout these first few story arcs acts mostly as the avatar for the reader. His fear and frustration by the end does feel genuine, as we the readers are starting to pine for answers too. While that does make him feel a little plain, he is shown to at least have a fun-loving side and actually does feel like a kid of his age. Yes, he does have some of the stereotypical harem anime hero traits, but he's shown to be a lot more decisive than those idiots. We'll see a lot more of his positive traits as the series progresses. Let's just say there's a reason why I consider him to be one of the best male anime protagonists ever. However, as good as he is, let's face it, Rena stole the show in this first volume. She is just such a standout character. While she did come off as over the top at first with her obsession over adorable things and Colonel Sanders for whatever reason, that just made her yandere ship all the more jarring and terrifying. What started off as a stereotypically cutesy anime speech quirk quickly became intimidating and creepy as all hell. While a lot of key characters to this series were introduced, the main focus remained on these two in this first arc, as it should be, unlike certain other properties. To add to the atmosphere, the art really helps it stand out. While I did snark at moments like Neon's smirk and Keiichi's angst face, it's still really well done and will get better with future volumes. Karin Suzuragi does have a great talent when it comes to drawing backgrounds and adding emphasis at just the right moments, which is required for something like this where dramatic timing is everything. And lest I remind you of her ability at drawing creepy eyes that would make Sadako want to run back into her well. Though after the next volume, don't expect to see her art for a while. In order to get the main story arcs out as quickly as possible, Square Enix hired 5 illustrators to draw different story arcs simultaneously and then publish them in 4 of their magazines. Suzuragi illustrated 3 out of the 8 arcs. This one, the Atonement arc, and the Festival accompanying arc. While I don't think she's necessarily the best amongst the 5 illustrators, I can't deny her skill and ability to evolve her craft over time. She's currently working on the manga adaptation of Aoni, and previously did work for Danganronpa 2 illustrating a book featuring Chiaki. Yeah, that's on my to-buy list during my next trip to Japan. But for now, we can enjoy her great artwork here in Higurashi. The mysteries surrounding this little village are just intriguing enough that'll make you want to keep reading, even if you are terrified.
Anyway, thanks for sticking with me through this first volume. I'll be back in the near future with more reviews like this. Until then though, farewell for now my friends, and always be cautious around the cries of the cicadas.